The retrospective exhibition entitled Passages at the Metropolitan Museum of Manila is a tribute to Betsy Westendorp and her distinguished career as an artist in Spain and in the Philippines. Miss Westendorp, who recently turned 93, has journeyed through a life full of both triumphs and tragedies, surrounded by love and sustained by her consummated passion for her art. Her life story begins on December 14, 1928, in the small village of Aravaca, just 9 kilometers from the center of Madrid, Spain. Betsy's father, Carlos Westendorp, who was of Spanish-Dutch heritage, and her mother, Isabel Cabeza, named her after a grand-aunt, Betsy Westendorp Oshek, who was also an artist. Growing up, Betsy was sketching and drawing most of the time with her crayons, pencils, and paints. She slowly discovered her gift and talent in capturing the likeness of people. Not surprisingly, her first subjects were the family members, who endured the many sittings with Betsy. Her mother and protective grandmother preferred she was tutored by professional artists in their own home. Later on, she would be allowed to attend studio classes of well-known portrait painters. At age 21, Betsy met and fell in love with a Spanish Filipino named Antonio Brias. After a whirlwind courtship, they were married in 1951. Antonio brought his new bride to the Philippines in the same year. Thus began the life of Betsy Westendorp in the Philippines, her adopted country. Betsy and Antonio Brias were blessed with 3 beautiful daughters, Isabel, Sylvia, and Carmen. As Betsy settled in her new home in Manila, she would continue to paint and do charming portraits of her friends. She would later receive prestigious commissions from local prominent persons in business and politics, as well as renowned personalities who admired her elegant style of painting. What launched Betsy's career as a portraitist in Europe was her first portrait of the young Felipe VI, second in line to the Spanish throne, after his father, then Príncipe de España, Juan Carlos. Betsy was invited in 1970 by then Philippine ambassador to Spain, Luis Gonzalez, and his wife, Vicky Quirino, daughter of former President Elpidio Quirino, to hold an exhibition of her works as part of the Philippine Week celebrations in Madrid. It was then that she was introduced to Spanish royalty, who asked her to do several portraits for the royal family.
Critic, when commenting about my painting, he said, "They are only flowers." You know, flowers is one of the most beautiful creatures in the world. So why say it's only a flower? Oh my goodness, only a flower. That's a wonder.
Apart from portraiture, another defining theme of Betsy Westendorp's art is her flowers. Her first subjects were the roses and carnations that were gifted to her. Eventually, she painted her flowers en plein air, outdoors, on the spot, where they actually grew. Betsy has always believed that, just like getting to know a person, she needed to be in the presence of her floral subjects. Betsy's first orchid paintings were inspired by a visit to a greenhouse in Madrid called Bourguignon. Betsy loved even more the many tropical species of orchids that grow all over the Philippines. It was the late Elena Flores, the distinguished Spanish critic, who christened the heretofore prosaic series Cloudscapes with something that transcended the visible world. Flores ascribed the series the label Atmospherographias, in the words of Flores, a celestial panorama of its atmospheric state to an artist who knows how to interpret it. Clouds that collide in a mysterious commotion of colors, siennas, blues, dark and light, crimsons, mauves, greens, ochres, golds. They have phantasmagoric shapes, fleeting, dense, evanescent, lightweight, changing in their constant and surprising movement. There are sunrises and sunsets, with the decline of light among the mist, the reflections of the sky on the sea. At several points in her life, Betsy has had her share of personal tragedy. Her husband Antonio died in 1976. In 2007, the death of her grandson, Ian, brought such deep grief and sadness for Betsy. In 2016, she received the heartbreaking news of the death of her daughter Isabel. Betsy turned to her art again and again to transmute all her losses and her pain, and produced a series of large Atmospherographias. One of these works she titled Passage, a transitioning of life into another. She has since donated this work to the Instituto Cervantes de Manila. The Philippine government has acknowledged the important contribution of Betsy Westendorp to the enrichment of Philippine art by bestowing on her the Presidential Award of Merit for Art and Culture. The Spanish government also officially recognized the work of Betsy Westendorp. In 1976, the King of Spain, Juan Carlos, bestowed on Betsy the Lazo de la Orden de Isabel la Católica. To quote art critic and writer Cid Reyes, all of Betsy's life has been a celebration of her art. Her art was the one true source of unending joy, delight, and happiness, all of which are reflected in her numerous artworks in various genres.